The locket was small, silver, tarnished at the edges, from years of being held without ever being worn. It had a tiny clasp that didn't close all the way anymore, and inside, behind a piece of cracked glass, there was a black and white photograph of a man in a Pullman porter uniform. The man was smiling, but the kind of smile that didn't quite reach the eyes, the kind tired men give when somebody asks them to look at a camera. That was why the locket lived where it lived, wrapped in a piece of red velvet, inside a wooden cigar box, at the back of the top dresser drawer, behind the church gloves she only wore on Easter. Anybody who'd come across that locket by chance would have thought it was just an old keepsake, the kind of thing women keep without remembering exactly why. But for this woman, in the quiet bedroom of a rented house on Cleburne Street in Houston's 3rd Ward, on a Thursday night that wasn't anything special, that locket was the most important thing she'd ever put away in her whole life. And she had put away a lot of things. She had put away money for over 30 years. She had put away the hope of owning a little place of her own for over 30 years too. And she hadn't put away either one of them right. That night, for the first time in a long while, she took the locket out of the cigar box. Not to wear it. The clasp didn't close. She just took it out to look at it. And when she held that small piece of silver in her 2 hands, something inside her started asking a question she'd been pushing back for years. A question that had the shape of something a church lady would say at the fellowship table after Sunday service. The question was this how it was supposed to be? Was this how it was supposed to be after 30-something years of getting up before the sun, having less in the account than her own niece who started saving 5 years ago? Was this how it was supposed to be, holding on to a locket and never a house with her name on the deed? Was this how it was supposed to be? Or was there something nobody had ever told her? And maybe there was still time to find out. Her name was Brenda Jackson, 56 years old, retired hotel housekeeper after 32 years at the Hampton Inn over by Alameda Road. She lived in 3rd Ward, in a small rented house with a porch that needed paint, a screen door that slammed every time the wind hit it, and a backyard with a pecan tree that gave more shade than pecans. She lived off her Social Security check, which came to a little over $1,300 a month, and from a small thing here and there, the cleaning she still did for an attorney's office near Texas Southern 2 evenings a week. The house wasn't hers. It never had been. That was the whole story. When she got married, at 23, her husband Earl promised her one day they'd put their name on a deed, somewhere in 3rd Ward or out by South Park, didn't matter where. When he passed 6 years before, of a heart attack while sitting in his recliner watching the news, he didn't leave her a house. He left her the recliner, the truck that didn't run, and that wooden cigar box, where Brenda already kept the silver locket folded in red velvet. The locket had been hers from before she ever met Earl. Her daddy had given it to her at her high school graduation in 1987. Inside it was a picture of him from when he was 30, working the rails between Houston and New Orleans. He had given it to her with a little brown envelope that had $50 inside, and he had said, "Baby, save your money, save every dollar you can." She had kept the $50 too, in that same cigar box, untouched for 38 years, and with the years, that locket had become a promise. A promise that one day she'd have something bigger to put next to it. To keep that promise, she saved. She saved from the first paycheck of her first real job. She put $20 into a savings account at the credit union when $20 was still real money. She put 20s, 50s, 100s at tax refund time, whatever she could pull together. She lived through 3 presidents, 2 recessions, and a lot of late electric bills, always putting a piece of what she earned into the same credit union, the same branch, the same plain savings account. It was never a lot per month, but it was steady. $40 here, $60 there, $200 when the year-end bonus came through. That went on for over 30 years. And the last 6 years after Earl passed, and she finally had the whole check to herself, she made a real push, putting in $200 every single month. No excuses. She believed what she'd been told. That saving was the wisest thing a woman could do for her future. That the savings account was safe, that it grew, that it earned interest while she worked. That was what her mama had told her. That was what the teller at the credit union always said when she came in to deposit. That was what came on the TV in big letters, in the ads she watched while she folded laundry on Sunday afternoon. And she had believed. If you're here today, listening to this story, it's because you know a woman like Brenda too. Or maybe that woman is you. This space was made for women who lived like that, who did everything right, the way they were taught to do it, and somehow still got to a certain age with a feeling they couldn't quite name. If you haven't tapped that subscribe button yet, stay with me a little longer. This woman still has plenty to say. That Tuesday had started like so many others. Brenda had gotten up at 5:30, made her coffee in the percolator she'd had since the 90s, listened to the morning show on the radio while she got dressed, and walked out by 7 to catch the bus to the credit union over on Scott Street. It was the day for her yearly statement. She didn't pull it often, once a year, always the week of her birthday. It was an old habit. She liked to see on that day how much she had managed to put away more. The line was long that morning. Brenda waited almost 40 minutes on her feet, holding her purse against her chest, looking at a poster about auto loans on the wall without really reading it. When she finally sat down in the blue plastic chair in front of the ATM, she put her 2 fingers on the print reader, waited for that little beep, and the paper came out, thin, still warm from the machine. She read the number at the top. Current balance, $14,212. She looked again. She looked a third time. She hadn't read it wrong. That was it, $14,212. After all those years of putting money in every month, and after 6 solid years of doing it like clockwork, the first thing she felt wasn't pain. It was an emptiness with the taste of an old medicine. Like somebody had opened a window inside her and the air had gone out. $14,000. For a little house in 3rd Ward, even the smallest one, she needed at least $80,000 for a down payment, more like $100,000. For anything that resembled peace of mind in old age, she needed a whole lot more. $14,000 was enough for a used car, was enough to fix the porch, was enough for absolutely nothing of what she had dreamed of when she started saving at 23 years old. Brenda sat still in the blue plastic chair after the statement came out. She didn't cry. She didn't take a deep breath. She just sat. And it was right then that she saw on the other side of the room a woman a little younger than her, maybe 45, sitting in a nicer chair. Not in the line for the ATM, in a glass-walled office with a little sign that said, Member Advisory Services. The woman had a navy blue folder open on her lap, full of papers, charts, numbers in different colors. The advisor was standing next to her, smiling, showing her something on a screen. The woman was nodding her head calmly, like somebody who understands exactly what's going on. Brenda looked down at her own hand, where she had nothing but that thin slip of thermal paper, and she thought, without even having the right words yet to think it, that maybe she had spent her whole life sitting in the wrong blue plastic chair. The following Sunday, after service at Greater St. Mary's Baptist Church, Brenda lingered a little longer than usual in the fellowship hall. Reverend Howard's sermon had been about patience, and something about patience had made her chest tight. She didn't feel like going home right away. She got herself a cup of weak coffee and a piece of pound cake on a paper plate, and she sat down at one of the long tables by the door. A few minutes later, Sister Eunice came over with her own cup. Sister Eunice was 76 years old, retired from working the cafeteria at Wheatley High School for 30 years. She had been at Greater St. Mary's longer than most of the deacons. Everybody in the congregation knew her, and everybody called her Sister Eunice, never just Eunice. She had a way about her that made you feel like sitting next to her was sitting next to wisdom itself, even when all she was talking about was the heat or the price of gas. Sister Eunice sat down across from Brenda, took a slow sip of her coffee, and started talking about the heat, then about her grandbaby in Dallas, who had just started middle school, then about Reverend Sermon and how she always had been patient in her life, and that patience had cost her some too. Brenda listened more than she spoke. There was a calm in Sister Eunice's voice she hadn't heard in a long time. It was the voice of somebody who had already seen plenty and didn't need to prove anything to anybody. When their coffees were almost gone, Brenda, without quite knowing why, started talking about the credit union. She told Sister Eunice she'd gone in to check her balance. She told her she had a little over $14,000 saved up after 30+ years. She said it quietly, the way somebody confesses. Sister Eunice didn't answer right away. She took another sip of coffee, slow, looking out the window where the kids were running around the parking lot in their Sunday clothes. And after a moment, without turning her head toward Brenda, she said simply, "Saving's good, baby girl. But money that just sits don't grow none either." That was it. She didn't explain. She didn't say anything more about it. Just then, somebody called her name from across the hall, and she got up, patted Brenda on the hand, and went to talk to the choir director about next week's anthem. Brenda was left with the empty cup in one hand and the words in the other. And the words stayed. The words stayed on the bus ride home. They stayed when she passed the corner store on Alameda. They stayed when she waved at her neighbor through the screen, and when she walked into the house, took off her good shoes by the door, and felt the linoleum cold against her feet. She couldn't hear the sound of the street outside anymore. All she could hear was Sister Eunice's voice, soft, calm, with no apparent weight to it. Money that just sits don't grow none either. Brenda went to the kitchen, put the kettle on the stove, leaned against the counter she'd already wiped clean, and stayed there for no reason at all. The ceiling fan turned one way, turned the other. The kettle started to whistle, and she didn't take it off the burner right away. She let it whistle a little longer. When she finally poured the water for her tea, she forgot to put in sugar. She drank it bitter. She only noticed by the third sip. That night, she tried to go back to the routine. She washed the dishes, folded a stack of towels, watched the end of a game show, went to bed. But when she turned off the lamp and put her head on the pillow, that same cold came back to her feet, the same one she'd felt walking into the house. It didn't make sense. The night was warm. The ceiling fan was on. She was under the sheet. But her feet were freezing. And she couldn't fall asleep. She was thinking about the credit union, about the glass-walled office, about the navy folder of the woman a little younger than her, about the word grow that Sister Eunice had used. Money sitting still doesn't grow. She tried to push it away. She thought about other things, about the grocery list for Saturday, about calling her sister down in Beaumont, about fixing the leaking faucet in the bathroom. But the words kept coming back, always coming back, and she ended up getting up before the sun, making coffee again and walking to the credit union ATM on the corner to make her monthly deposit, just like she did every first Monday of the month. The month's deposit. $200. She did it the same as always, automatic, in the same place as always. She only realized when she was back home that she had done it without giving it a second thought. The way you flip a light switch. Walking back from the ATM, she stopped in front of the corner store with the receipt still in her hand, no memory of what she'd come outside to do in the first place. The next few days were strange. Brenda couldn't go back to being who she was before that little slip of thermal paper, before that blue chair, before Sister Eunice's words. Without trying, she started noticing things she hadn't noticed before. She noticed her niece, who was 32 and had something called a Roth IRA. She noticed the young woman behind her at the grocery store talking on the phone about her stock app. She noticed the radio commercial that said start investing with as little as $25 a month. She noticed the man at the bus stop telling another man, "Mine is up almost 100 this month." Before, she had walked past those things without seeing them. Now they called out to her one by one, like signs that had always been there, and she had been the one walking around with her eyes closed. It wasn't a pretty discovery. It was a kind of shame that took her a while to name. It was the very specific feeling of having been the only person in a whole room doing the math the wrong way, and nobody ever telling her. One Wednesday, she tried to do something about it. But since she still didn't know what exactly there was to do, she did the only thing she knew how. She tightened everything. She cut the brand name cereal, switched to the store brand, started buying chicken thighs instead of breasts, decided to only run the air conditioner from noon to 9. She decided to put $400 a month into the credit union instead of $200. She walked around her kitchen calculating what she would save on her blood pressure medicine if she switched to generic. She wrote it all down in a small spiral notebook on the last page, with a pen that was barely writing anymore. For 3 weeks, it worked. She saw the balance growing faster than usual. She felt, for a few days, something like pride. She told her sister in Beaumont on the phone. She went back to the ATM, pulled an extra statement, gave it a satisfied look. And right there, sitting once again in the blue plastic chair, the pride deflated. Because she did the math right then, on her phone's calculator, of how long it was going to take at the new pace to have $80,000. And the answer was, more than 15 years, at the minimum. If nothing went wrong, if her rent didn't go up, if she didn't get sick, if. And by then she'd be over 70. And even then, that might just be enough for a down payment, not the whole house. She walked home that day, slow. Her knee was sore. It wasn't the knee. It was 30+ years of doing the one thing she thought was right, without knowing there was more. It was having to recalculate everything from scratch, after a whole lifetime. When she got home, she took off her shoes by the door. She didn't go to the kitchen. She went straight to the bedroom. She opened the top dresser drawer, took out the wooden cigar box, lifted out the red velvet bundle, and unwrapped the silver locket. She sat down on the floor, leaning against the side of the bed, with the locket in her 2 hands. The yellow light of the bedside lamp made the silver look darker than it was. She stayed like that, looking at that small piece of metal in silence for a length of time she could not measure. She looked at the locket longer than she meant to. The silver had the color of things that forget they exist. That locket was a symbol of what she had done her whole life. She had put away what was made to grow. She had put away, with care, with love, with discipline, something that needed to be put out into the world to work. She had protected the money the way you protect a thing, when protecting and caring for are not the same thing. Caring for is something else. Caring for is letting life do something with what you have. The bedside lamp started to flicker. The bulb had been going for weeks. Brenda spoke under her breath, for nobody to hear. Some women save their whole lives without anyone ever telling them that saving is the beginning, not the end. The money they put away deserved to grow, and so did they. She stayed like that until the ceiling fan stopped sounding the way it had been sounding and started sounding a different way. Then she got up, put the locket back in the red velvet, but she didn't put it back in the cigar box at the back of the drawer. She put it in the small jewelry tray on top of the dresser, in plain sight, like somebody who knows she's going to look at it again soon. Brenda didn't do anything heroic that week. She didn't make any big decisions. She didn't call anybody. She just thought. She thought while she made coffee. She thought while she watered the basil in the kitchen window. She thought while she watched her neighbor hanging laundry in the side yard. And the thought was always the same. She wanted to talk to Sister Eunice again. She went to Sunday service that next week and lingered in the fellowship hall again. Sister Eunice wasn't there. The week after, same thing. Brenda asked Deacon Williams. He said Sister Eunice had been a little under the weather but should be back the following Sunday. Brenda went again, and there she was in her usual seat, with a yellow dress and the same calm in her face. Brenda sat across from her at the long table again, with a fresh cup of weak coffee, and after a few minutes she asked her. She asked her straight, no walking around it, because she felt that woman deserved straight questions. She asked her what she meant by money that just sits, don't grow none either. Sister Eunice laughed soft. She said she learned that from a son of hers who studied finance at Texas Southern back in the 80s. She said for years she had done just like Brenda, everything in the credit union savings, until her son sat her down at this very table once and told her about things called I-bonds at treasurydirect.gov, told her about a thing called a money market account, told her about index funds at Vanguard. She said it wasn't complicated. She said it was for women like them. She said it paid more. She said it was safe, the government kind especially. She said there were even free videos online where a great niece of hers had learned all of it without paying nobody a dime. She said she herself had a little piece of her money working that way now for almost 10 years. And she said her son had told her some Japanese folks had like 7 rules to make the same thing happen, but the most important rule was really just one: stop letting your money sit there sleeping. Brenda listened to it all without interrupting. She wrote the names down in the corner of the church bulletin with the pen that was barely writing. Walking home, she went slow, not pressuring herself to understand all of it at once. It took her another 3 weeks to work up the courage to go to the credit union and ask. She went on a Friday after lunch, not to the line for the blue plastic chairs, to the glass-walled office, the same one where she had seen the woman with the Navy folder. She asked for information. The advisor, young, patient with her, explained. He showed her the numbers. He showed her what it earned in a year, in 3, in 5. He compared it with the basic savings account. The difference wasn't small. Over some years the old way, she'd end up with $800 more. The new way with over $3,500 more. For the same money, for the same effort. She walked out of the glass-walled office holding her purse against her chest. Her hands had moved to her lap without her noticing. She sat down on the bench in the lobby outside the office and looked at them. They were folded over each other like she was praying. She wasn't. She thought about going home and dropping it. She thought she'd lose everything. She thought this was for TV folks, people with real money. She thought about giving up 3 times that day. But in the end, she sat down again in the glass-walled office the following week. And she did it. She didn't do it with all of it. She did it with half, $7,020. She put them into I-bonds at Treasury Direct, one of the simplest kinds, the ones the advisor said you start with. She left the other $7,000 in the credit union savings for safety, because she still needed to feel safe. She signed the papers with the credit union's pen. Her hand shook a little, but she signed. 3 months later, she saw the first statement. The return on those 3 months alone, without her putting in another penny, was higher than the total return of the last 2 years combined on the savings account. Brenda read the number, read it again. She didn't cry, but she sat still in the chair for a while. Not the blue plastic chair from the line, the chair in the glass-walled office. Almost 2 years later, Brenda went back to the credit union on a Tuesday that looked like that other one. Not to deal with a crisis, to deal with good news. She had managed to put together enough between the returns, a small inheritance from a cousin, and a few more nights of cleaning the attorney's office to put down a real down payment on a little 2-bedroom house in Sunnyside, just south of 3rd Ward. It wasn't big, it wasn't fancy, it was hers. And she had come to the credit union that day to pull the last amount from the I-bonds to complete the down payment. She was carrying a folder. It wasn't navy blue. It was brown leather, soft from age, that her sister in Beaumont had given her years ago for her birthday. But inside there were papers, investment papers, account statements, the preliminary contract for the house. It was the first time she had walked into the credit union with a full folder instead of just that little slip of thermal paper. While she was waiting for them to call her name, she saw on the other side of the room a woman sitting in the blue plastic chair, a little younger than her, maybe 52, 53, flowered dress, worn-out sandals, hair pulled back in a low bun. The woman was sitting there with a thin slip of paper in her hand, the same kind of slip. Thermal, thin, still warm. She was looking at it with the same face Brenda had made almost 2 years before. Brenda watched her for a while. She thought about letting it go. She thought every woman has her path, that nobody asks for advice, that maybe the other woman would feel embarrassed. But instead of that, she did something she had never done before. She got up from her chair, walked across the room, sat down in the blue plastic chair next to the woman. She spoke softly. She asked her if they could talk a minute. The woman's name was Vanessa, home health aide working over near McGregor Park, 52 years old, had saved her whole life, and had just looked at her statement for the first time in 5 years. Brenda didn't give her advice from any book. She didn't talk about rates or charts. She talked about Sister Eunice. She talked about the fellowship hall at Greater St. Mary's. She talked about the words. She told her money that just sits don't grow none either. She told Vanessa, with the same calm Sister Eunice had used with her, that saving was good, that she had done everything right, but there was a step after saving that nobody teaches in school, and that maybe it was time to know about it. Vanessa listened in silence. She wrote 3 names down in the corner of her statement. She thanked Brenda without looking up. She held the slip of paper a little tighter than she needed to. And when she stood up to leave, she turned to Brenda and said quietly that she had heard her, that she was going to try. Brenda went back to the chair in the glass-walled office. They called her name. She did what she had come to do. She pulled the money for the down payment, and when she walked out of the credit union, with the brown leather folder under her arm, she stopped for a second on the sidewalk and reached into her purse. She pulled out the silver locket, the same one, tarnished at the edges from the wooden cigar box. She had brought it with her that day, for no clear reason. She looked at it for a moment, and without thinking too much, she took the locket off the velvet, slipped it onto a thin new chain she had bought at the drugstore the day before, and put it around her neck. The locket she had kept hidden for almost 40 years was now resting on her chest, warmed by her own skin, going home with her to the new house. That locket she had kept, put away for almost 40 years, had finally found a place next to something that was going to grow. Not the house her father had wanted for her at 23, but a house of Brenda's, a house for real. If you made it all the way here listening to this story, I want to ask you one thing. Comment down below, Day 1, and tell me what you're going to do today just for you. It can be small. It can be looking at your statement. It can be looking up a new word. It can be calling a Sister Eunice of your life. I want to read every comment that comes through, every single one, no exceptions. And if this story made you think of some woman, send her this video. Your sister, your friend from work, your neighbor down the street, the woman who saved her whole life the right way she was taught. Send it to her. She'll understand why. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, stay with us a little longer. This is a space made for the woman who has lived, who is still living, who is tired of trying to do it all right by herself. Hit that little bell so you don't miss the next videos. And take care of yourself, baby. We'll see each other in the next story.